Today is 31st October. Chapter 6, verse number 10 onwards. So if to do that entire section, our section is pretty huge. Verse number 10 to 36, right? So I'll put up this thing on the board to break up the acronym. Chapter 6, Dhyan Yoga. The acronym is EASY. EASY. What we covered last time was enemy or friend, where Krishna speaks about the mind, the first 9 verses, the nature of the mind and the need to control the mind, right? And then he speaks about Ashtanga Yoga, a process of yoga, of linking to the Supreme Lord by controlling the mind. That is specifically called as Ashtanga Yoga. Now this was particularly practiced in the bygone era, specifically Satyug. In the Satyug, this meditation process was practiced. How it is done, Krishna emphasizes it in verse number 10 to 36. And then Arjuna presents his, theory or his opinion about this kind of few doubts he has. He wants to clear them. So that is between 37 to verse 45 of chapter 6. And the last is Yogi. Y in easy, Y stands for Yogi, where Krishna presents the topmost yogi in Krishna's opinion. Who is the topmost yogi? Now why does he present that after speaking the entire Ashtanga Yoga? Because Arjuna, kind of tells him that this type of Ashtanga Yoga that you're, telling me in these 25 verses, it's pretty practical. It's impractical, it's unendurable to me. So then Krishna gives him another formula other than those 3 yoga patterns that he's already enunciated in the previous chapters. That is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Finally he speaks about Dhyan Yoga, which again Arjuna rejects. And then he gives a glimpse of chapter 7 in these 2 verses by telling him who is the topmost yogi. So we'll start with our prayers, then we'll start with this entire section. Introduction, page number 1. Yoginam api sarvesham. I'm saying the 46th verse. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Tadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So chapter 6, so as I mentioned before, we're on the second section of chapter 6. It starts from verse number 10. So this entire section, which Krishna presents the Ashtanga Yoga, first he says the need for Ashtanga Yoga and then he presents the actual Ashtanga Yoga. So this particular second part, in easy, the A is Ashtanga Yoga. I'll just break it up into 4 parts. Verses 10 to 36. In verses 10 to 17, 6.10 to 6.17, Krishna teaches Arjuna how to meditate. Between 6.18 to 27, Krishna explains to Arjuna how to reach the perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Verses 28 to 32, Krishna emphasizes between verses 28 to 30 that the perfection of, I'll write AY, Ashtanga Yoga, I'm lazy, is to realize the super soul or the Paramatma in the heart. And then the last section in 33 to 36 is Arjuna's analysis of Ashtanga Yoga. Is that okay? So when we read through the shlokas, we'll read it according to these sections. We'll read through 6.10 to 6.17 and then we'll come back for each purport. Then 18 to 27, 28 to 32, 33 to 36. Then it becomes more easy to pick up, more easy to understand. When you read the whole chunk together, you've forgotten the first one. Is that okay? So we'll start with 6.10. Now just before that, I gave you that 8-fold path last Wednesday. I did that, na? It starts with yama, some prohibitions. Niyam is some regulations. Asana is the sitting postures. Pranayam is the breathing exercises for mind control. Pratyahar, that means once the breathing exercise is controlled, then you withdraw the senses from sense objects. Once you're perfect with that, then comes dharan. Dharan is holding the personal form of the Lord in the mind, not just some impersonal Brahman or not just some point or some light. It is the personal form of the Lord that one has to hold in the eye of the mind. That is dharan. Once that is perfect, one begins dhyan, concentrating on the form. Samadhi is darshan of this. Hare Krishna. So here that section of 28 to 32, if you see, each one Krishna is step by step, he is taking Arjuna into each one of these sections. How to meditate? He'll present the yama and niyama, the asana, how the asana should be, all these things, little bit of pratyahar. How to reach the perfectional stage is the pratyahar and pranayam. And then the perfection stage is to realize the super soul, is the topmost part of Ashtanga Yoga. So dhire dhire dhire, what is he doing? He is emphasizing each stage. Rupal not So we start with 6.10 to 6.17. Yogi yunjit satatam.
Yogi yunjit satatam.
आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकीयत चित्तात्मा निराशीर परिग्रहः. Translation together. Start. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from feelings and desires of possessiveness. Desires and feelings of possessiveness. Verse 11 and 12 are together. शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरम् आसनमात्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचम् चैलाजिनकुशोत्तरम् तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यत चित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः उपविश्यासने युञ्जत् योगमात्मा विशुद्धये. Translation. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place
and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place.
The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Verses 13 and 14. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayanna chalam stiraha samprekshanasikagram swam dishashchanavalokayan prashantatma vigatabhir brahmachari vrate stitah मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो युक्त आसीत मत्परः. Translation. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. 3 more verses. Yunjanevam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah shantim nirvana paramam matsamsthamadhigacchati. Translation. Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. 6.16. Jnatanashtastu yogosti nachaikantam manashnatah nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. Translation. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Last verse. In practical meditation, 6.17 Yuktahara viharasya
Yuktahara viharasya
Yukta cheshtasya karmasu
Yukta cheshtasya karmasu
Yukta swapnavabodhasya
Yukta swapnavabodhasya
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha.
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha.
Right? So finish the first part of section A. I'll make it more clear. This section A, Ashtanga Yoga, is a big section, verses 10 to 36. So I've broken down this entire section into 4 parts. Part 1, 2, 3, 4. First part, 10 to 17, is what we read right now. Here Krishna is teaching Arjun how to meditate. He is giving a lot of practical tips which has to be externally followed for the body, and some internal things which has to be disciplined with the mind. Okay? And then the second part, maybe next class we'll be starting that. 18 to 27, this is not overview, we'll be going slow, sorry. 18 to 27, how to reach the perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Means what are the prerequisites? How do you know that you've attained perfection or you're coming close to perfection? Is this section. Then verses 28 to 32, Krishna starts saying that the perfection is when you get darshan of the Super Soul, the Lord. How does the Lord look? Everything. 33 to 36 is Arjun's analysis of this Ashtanga Yoga. It's okay? So there are 4 parts. First part is what we read right now from 10 to 17. So we come back to verse number 10. Now here I'd like to point out that when we go through the purports, there will be 2 points continuously being emphasized by Prabhupada. The first point in the purport is that how Bhakti Yoga, what word should I use? How Bhakti Yoga automatically fulfills the requirements of rigorous AY. What is AY? Ashtanga. And number 2, how Ashtanga Yoga is impractical for Kali Yuga. I'm writing these points separately because this might be like a diversion to the actual thing that Krishna is mentioning. But Prabhupada is always mentioning this continuously in his purports. There's a reason for it. Because at the end, Krishna will be listing down all those points. So Arjun would be listing down all these same points that right now Prabhupada is writing in the purport. So then it will be more easy for us to connect when we come to that next section. Success and failure. Is that okay? Or when we come to Arjun's analysis, it will be easy for us to connect to these points. Both. We have bonus today. Cookies and kheer. So in the purport, Prabhupada mentions how Bhakti Yoga automatically fulfills requirements of rigorous Ashtanga Yoga. And number 2, how Ashtanga Yoga is impractical, unendurable, too tough for Kali Yuga. How many are left? That depends on that. तो मेरे लिए बस हो जाएगा. Go through 6.10. Done writing. Yogi yunjita satatam Atmanam rahasi stitah Ekakiyata chittatma Nirashira parigrahah. Translation together. verse 10, 6.10.
Page 281.
Big book, 281. Together, start. The transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Right, now I am reading the purport by Prabhupada. Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is a shloka in Vishnu Puran and also in Bhagavatam which says Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdyate vibhayate. So there are three phases in which you can understand Bhagwan, the Supreme Lord. If you want to understand, just like the sun, if you want to understand the sun, you understand the sunshine first, because that's the first contact, and then we understand that disk that we can see in the sky, and then there is the sun planet itself, presided by sun God, who's actually the energetic person, and then on his behalf all these things are going on. The whole controllership is in his hand. Same way, the same thing can be applied in aspect to God. The impersonal Brahman is like the sunshine. A spiritualist, when he practices, it's compared to a long unending tunnel. When you see the end of the tunnel, what do you see? You simply see some light. So the first contact of transcendentalists with Krishna is the impersonal Brahman or the Brahma Jyoti, or simply the rays or the effulgence of Krishna's personal body. When you come closer, what happens? Or a high understanding from sunshine too is the sun, this that we see the God. We can understand that this tube light is coming from this tube. That's higher knowledge. Right? So Paramatma realization is higher than impersonal Brahman, because we understand that this is the personality from whom this effulgence is emanating from. And then the third aspect is the Supreme Lord Himself. Paramatma is in your heart, is in my heart, is in your heart. And then the Supreme Lord also is there in the spiritual abode. He is eternally there. His eternal residence is the spiritual abode. Is that okay? So then we understand Krishna in 3 degrees. Krishna consciousness means concisely to be always engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So what is Bhakti Yoga? What is Krishna consciousness? Direct contact with that person in the supreme abode. Direct contact with him. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized super soul are also partially Krishna conscious, because impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and super soul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Is this part understood? Because of that shloka it becomes very clear. Thus the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. Why indirectly? Can anyone say why indirectly Krishna conscious? Because they still not conscious of the person Krishna. They are not directly in contact with him. Like if I say, yeah, I know the sun, and if you ask me, I know only the sunshine, then I am aware of the sun, but it's only a partial knowledge. It's incomplete. Right? A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist, because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. One who knows sun god or one who knows the sun planet will automatically know what that sun disk is and automatically know what this sunshine is. It's automatic. They don't have to study it separately then. Right? So one who knows Bhagwan automatically knows what is impersonal Brahman, automatically knows who this Paramatma is. His knowledge of absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Right? Now why is Prabhupada writing this part? Because Ashtanga Yoga means to realize the super soul. So here what Prabhupada is trying to point out is this point. Bhakti Yoga automatically fulfills requirements of Ashtanga Yoga. In Ashtanga Yoga, how much can we go? How far can we go? We can get darshan of Paramatma. Right? In Bhakti Yoga, what happens? We get darshan of the Supreme Lord. And then the Paramatma realization is already covered. You get this point? That's why this whole paragraph basically means this. Is that okay? Second paragraph, Madhu, you can read.
Nevertheless, all of these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in the particular pursuits, so that they may come into the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness.
Yeah. Here in the shloka, if you see, there are 3 words. Nirashir, Ekaki, and Rahasi. Can you see those words?
Sorry to interrupt. I was not very clear with the first thing.
First paragraph?
Yeah.
Prabhupada is writing in the purport that there are 3 aspects to know God. First aspect is Brahmajyoti. Second aspect is Paramatma. Third and complete aspect is Supreme Person. The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So when you give the darshan of Paramatma means what are you? You're just seeing.
We are still on the second step.
So what is Paramatma?
It's the same.
Paramatma and Super Soul is.
1 second, sorry.
What's the difference in Paramatma and the
Supreme Person?
Yeah.
Paramatma is a Vishnu form. Just like what is the difference between the sun planet and from here I am seeing the sun disk. I am standing in the planet Earth and I am watching the sun disk in the sky. And I am on the sun planet. What is the difference? There's no difference?
Didn't understand what you're trying to say.
Again, I'll repeat. There is a difference between being on the sun planet with sun god
And then seeing
and then seeing from planet Earth that sun planet. There's a difference. Someone who's on the sun planet with sun god has much more knowledge or exposure or much more opportunities than a person simply sitting on mother on Mother Earth and watching.
Stage, yes.
Yeah, one who's watching the sun disk is like Paramatma stage. Means active service to Paramatma. At the most, what can you do? Just simply meditate on his form. If you have to serve him, then you have to come to a personal form, a deity, or personally serving the Lord in the spiritual abode. That's the next step. When you realize that this is Paramatma in my heart who is there, the Supreme Person.
You have to realize that there is.
Once you see the Paramatma, it's an automatic thing that, okay, now I want to serve him. Then you come to the third step of Bhakti Yoga. Get it? When you see the Paramatma in your heart, there's still a next step. It's like finding the root of the tree and watering the root of the tree. They are 2 separate things. When I'm watering the root of the tree, have I found the root?
It's like finding the way.
I found, and that's why I'm watering it.
It's like finding the way and then walking.
Yeah, towards it. Now here, when I'm automatically serving Krishna, directly practicing Bhakti Yoga, I've taken an elevator. This Ashtanga Yoga itself, to realize the Paramatma, this whole procedure is so difficult, Prabhupada is saying. Later on in the verses, we'll see that, right now we just come to a point where Prabhupada is in Krishna saying Nirashir, Ekaki, Rahasi. Now we'll go through what these 3 words mean. Then slowly we'll see that this Ashtanga Yoga, this Yam, this Niyam, this Pranayam, this Pratyahar, this Dharan, this is so difficult, this Pranayam, this is so difficult to practice. It takes thousands of years. Plus the prerequisites also we'll be seeing now. Even to qualify for this Ashtanga Yoga, there are so many prerequisitions. We'll be seeing that in the future verses. In between this 10 to 17 itself, we all of us will be out. Yeah, we read through, you have to be a celibate monk, you have to be alone, living in a secluded place. So many prerequisites are already there. Technically, we are disqualified for Ashtanga Yoga. Phir bhi hum pad rahe. Why? Because Prabhupada is saying, he's not letting us down, he's giving us a positive hope, saying that what you're going to get in Ashtanga Yoga, it's simply a byproduct in Bhakti Yoga. Now you understand? In the first part, what he's saying is what you're going to get in Bhakti Yoga. It's only side byproducts, it's not even the actual thing. Actual service of the Supreme Lord is so much more than just Paramatma realization. And when we come to 7th chapter, specifically in verse number 3, Krishna says that.
So till pranayam you only reach to the stage of Paramatma realization.
That's only the 4th stage. 4 more stages are left.
And then till pranayam you reach there.
That's halfway.
Right?
Halfway. But before that, Yam and Niyam are still there. After perfecting Yam Niyam, then you go to Asan. After practicing asanas perfectly, then you go to pranayam.
And then after pranayam, when you do super soul, you never realize the soul, the supreme personality, still even in samadhi.
In samadhi, you will see only a Paramatma in your heart.
It's still Paramatma.
Yeah, like in 2nd canto of in Shrimad Bhagavatam, Narad Muni, he got darshan of the Paramatma in his heart.
Samadhi is total thoughtlessness.
Samadhi is spiritual desire.
And it is also thoughtlessness.
Being thoughtlessness is also a thought.
But you are already in that mode.
Thoughtlessness. You mean desireless or do you mean thoughtless?
No thoughts going. Yeah, desirelessness or thoughtlessness.
No, if I want, my desire is to become desirelessness, that also is a desire.
But that desire is spiritual.
Yeah. The difference between material desires, when we say that being desireless, we mean that's zero material desire.
So according to that, meditation has to happen. You should not plan meditation. It has to happen automatically.
It's a process. It's not just one-time activity. It's a procedure. In a procedure, you have to do certain things to attain a particular observation or conclusion. You have to go through a procedure. The procedure is Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar. Finally, Samadhi is way away. This is what this is all about. Krishna is giving the first thing here. The first thing he is giving here is engage body, mind, self in relationship with Supreme. Means your all other relationships are cut off, snapped. Right? Second thing, Nirashir means what? Where is that word? Yogi yunchita satatam atmanam rahasi stitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirashir aparigraha. He should live alone. Yeah, ekaki is live alone in a secluded place. Is it possible in Kali Yuga? Think we can leave our families. Now he's presenting this to a grihastha. He's not presenting this to a already sannyasi carrying a danda and saffron robes. He's presenting this Ashtanga Yoga to a person with 4 wives and children. Right? So we are almost on the same level like Arjun in that sense, in grihastha sense. So now imagine, is this practical for me to go to a secluded place to live alone? Point number 2. This is a prerequisite for Ashtanga Yoga. This is the first verse of Ashtanga Yoga. Oh, this is wonderful. Right? And then Nirashir is what? No desires and feelings of possessiveness.
So without being attracted by anything else. Rashi.
Rahasi is... One second.
In a secluded place.
Without being
Yeah.
attracted by anything else.
Rahasi is in a secluded place.
Means with no one. Like even if a guru has to go, he can't even take his disciples along. It has to be alone. Nir Asha means no other Asha, free from desires. Free from material desires. Is that okay? Now again, there's a difference between spiritual desire and material desire. Desirelessness means zero material desires. The soul by nature is active. There cannot be a point of time when the soul is void, zero. Shunyavad it is called. Shunya is zero. Have you met anyone who's zero? I mean, his thoughts are zero. Even having a desire is a thought, is a desire. Right?
Even
So
spiritual
rather,
desire is also...
is a desire, and it's a positive desire. Material desires give us bondage. Spiritual desires give us liberation. So we don't aspire for zero, what we aspire is for positive.
So a person is
Right now we
never
are at
desireless.
negative.
A person is
Cannot be never desireless. Can never be desireless. It's minus. There's minus. Material desires are minus. It's causing a bondage. We want to come to zero, which is not possible. What we do, we go to positive. That is spiritual desire. It's a cause of liberation from this bondage. So in the second shloka, Krishna mentions about one should always think of Krishna, never forget him for any moment, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That's a prerequisite. Number 2, concentration of mind on Supreme is called Samadhi. This is the topmost. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion. And now if you want to practice this, the first 3 principles of Ashtanga Yoga is 1, 2, 3. Nirashir, no feelings of possessiveness, means you can't take any belongings when you go to this secluded place. Right? Free from material desires, no hankering anymore. And number 3 is this ekaki. You should go alone. Where? Rahasi, to a secluded place. And in perfect determination, he shall not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. Next para, all these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness. Again we come to this point. This paragraph, again we come to this point. How? Because direct Krishna consciousness means self-abnegation. What is self-abnegation? Not thinking about oneself. Thinking about the object of love, wherein there is very little chance for material possessiveness. When you are in love, what happens? How do you know a person is in love? The whole
Concentrating on that.
concentration, the whole body language changes. When you speak to that person is not in, they're in trance. Yeah? Sometimes in this teenage period, you see, the person is just flying, just thinking of the object of love. What happens? Fascination or infatuation.
Imagination.
It's just you're only thinking about that.
Another world.
Yeah, you're in another world. So this is what Prabhupada is saying here. He is saying that instead of rigorously or artificially trying to practice it in an external way, even living as a grihastha, you can be
In that transcendental.
in that when you're constantly thinking about Krishna. Self-abnegation, when a person is in love, there is self-abnegation, means you just don't think about yourself. You only think about someone else. You think about that Supreme Person. So this feeling of possessiveness, and you're free from material desires, because you don't desire anything for yourself anymore. That is Bhakti Yoga. So first point is covered in Bhakti Yoga. Right? Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharham upayunjatah nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya uchyate. Prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastunah mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam falgu kathyate. Now here Rupa Goswami is giving 2 types of vairagya. This is markat. Markat means monkey. I'll tell you what it means. It's called falgu, it's called markat also. Vairagya means
Separation.
separation, renunciation, give away. Now this is the first verse from second section of Ashtanga, from the first section of Ashtanga Yoga, that A part, right? So what we doing? We learning the prerequisites or how to meditate. What are the requirements to begin this Ashtanga Yoga, right? So the first requirements, Krishna said, Nirashi, Ekaki, Rahasi. Basically, through Ashtanga Yoga, you have to always think of Krishna and never forget Krishna. And this third point in the last 2 paragraphs that Prabhupada is mentioning is how a devotee is automatically Nirashir, Ekaki, Rahasi. To emphasize this point, he is quoting Rupa Goswami from the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. We read this shloka and we read the meaning. He is introducing 2 concepts here, Yukta Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya, or also called as Markat Vairagya. And I am reading the translation of that verse from Rupa Goswami's book. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. You understand this point? When I understand, if I go to Anju's house and I say कि मैंने ये घर त्याग दिया, what will Anju's husband say? Never mind, right? When I understand that this object which I am getting attached to belongs to someone else, it belongs to Krishna, who is the actual proprietor. How do I use this object then? As a caretaker. You're already detached. You know I can't keep it forever, and plus you'll use it more carefully. Rental property, something which is expensive and it belongs to someone else, then you'll use it more carefully. Yeah? So the second part is, on the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. So this incomplete renunciation is called Falgu Vairagya. And complete renunciation is when I understand that nothing belongs to me. I didn't get anything in this world, nor am I going to take anything with me. That is Yukta Vairagya. Yukta means understanding a position of something. That is Yukta. What is Markat Vairagya? It's called monkey Vairagya. When a monkey, he eats the grapes and he finds the grapes sour. Or you know that there's a story which we learned when, you know, the fox who was trying to get the grapes and he couldn't get it. What did he say? Khatte hai, chahiye hi nahi. Some yogis, when they think that this material object will give me trouble, I'll get entangled with it, I'll get possessive, then I'll get attached, then there's contamination, then there's vitaraga, bhaya, krodha. There will be bhaya, there will be, bhaya of losing it. When someone tries to take it away from me, there will be anger, there is attachment. So these material things are only problematic. So I simply want to renounce it. That is the fox vairagya, the markat vairagya. That is Falgu vairagya. Not understanding that this very object, I can use it in Krishna's service. This object can enhance my service to Krishna. Everything potentially material has two uses to it. I can either use it in the service of Maya, or I can use it in the service of Krishna. There are only two applications to everything in this world. I use it in service of Krishna, or I use it in service of Maya. TV.
That's what you watch.
It's what you watch. Right? If I think this is unfavorable for me, then don't go close to it. Or make it favorable for you. Whose hand is it in? TV में कुछ अच्छा नहीं दिखाते. Is it their fault? They're making money. Right? It's my decision whether to use it in service of Krishna or to use it in service of Maya. If I think that it doesn't have any potential to use it in service of Krishna, at least right now, then what do? Find something else. Right? So then when one is attached to anything, when one is not attached to anything, at the same time accepts that this can be used in service of Krishna, that is Yukta Vairagya. So Rupa Goswami presents to us perfect renunciation. Perfect renunciation when I understand that this object is not mine, it belongs to Krishna. So I have to use it, I cannot waste it. I have to use it effectively. Optimal use. Okay. So the last paragraph, Prabhupada summarizes this point of how a devotee is automatically a renunciant. He doesn't have feelings of possessiveness. A Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental. And he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. So in that way he is Rahasi. When he understands that this person, he doesn't have anything good for me in my Krishna consciousness. So how much relation do I keep with him? Jitna chahiye utna. Right? So therefore a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi from the first verse of Ashtanga Yoga. Can we go to the next? We have 10 minutes, I think. Prabhuji comes at 12:40. शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरमासनमात्मनः नाति उच्छ्रितं नाति नीचं चैलाजिन कुशोत्तरम् तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्यात् योगमात्मा विशुद्धये. Translation start. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Okay, so now these are practical tips what you do with your body. Right? Purport by Prabhupada. Right. So here he is saying number 1, sacred place. A sacred place means a dham that we call. Yeah? Either it's the Prayag where there's confluence of 3 rivers. Any confluence of a river is very auspicious. By even Vastu, confluence of rivers, confluence of roads, they are auspicious places. Right? And then places where the Supreme Lord has performed his personal pastimes. The avatars or the incarnations of the Lord have descended in that place. So that place carries the potency of the vibrations of the personal presence of the Lord. So that's why they are very spiritually potent. Any practitioner, when he goes to that place, immediately gets those, desires to practice spirituality becomes very predominant. Because the mode that is present in that place is very pure. Right? Like if you go to a club and you try to chant, very difficult because it's heavy with mode of passion and ignorance. Right? So like that, there are places which are favorable, which are places like a garden, or there is a high mountain top. So these places are predominantly in mode of goodness. There's plenty of sunlight. So that's why it is mode of goodness. So to chant over there becomes more easy. If you go to a dirty, dingy place where people are quarreling, then again that is very heavy in mode of passion and modes of ignorance. It's difficult to chant. Even the mind becomes agitated. So the first thing to practice Ashtanga Yoga is to select a sacred place. What does Prabhupada say after that? Harer Nama, Harer Nameva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Anyatha. 3 times. Why 3 times? Emphasize. एक बार बोला नहीं सुनते. Sometimes we tell our children 100 times and maybe 1 time they'll do it. Right? So even in this Upanishad, Brihad Naradiya Puran, where this particular shloka emphasizes the holy names, Hari's name, it's only Hari's name. And Kalau means, in the age of Kali, Nasteva, there is no other way, only by chanting the holy names of Sri Hari. So here, why is that mentioned? Because Prabhupada in the previous 2 lines, he says, number 1, you have to select a sacred place. That's by default, there is no other way. You have to go to a sacred place. Secluded, sacred place. Secluded was in verse 6.10. 6.11 he says, not only secluded but also sacred. And then he says, what do you lay down? Kusha grass. Yeah? And then you have a deer skin. Usually yogis, they use a deer skin or a tiger skin, because they have some chemical effect which keeps reptiles and snakes away. So the yogi has to practice in a secluded place, he'll be constantly... No, they find these dead animals, they take that. Like and then put deer skin on it. After the deer skin, there's chaila. Chaila basically means cotton. A cotton cloth to put on top of the skin, and then you sit. And how is the seating? It's neither too high, neither too low. Actually, there is a lecture given by Prabhupada in New York City in 1966, September 4th, he spoke this. On this shloka, he gave a class. Shuchau deshe pratisthapya. Shuchau means Shuchi. Shuchi means a sanctified place. Prabhupada says he must be situated in a sanctified place. Sthiram asanam atmana. The asanam, the sitting place, should not be changed. एक ही जगह पे, ऐसे नहीं कि आज बोर हो गए इधर. So next. No, only one place you have to get adjusted to. Then, and how should be the sitting place selected? Na ati uchritam, nati nicham. Means not too high, not too low. Just medium. Na and chaila jina, kushottaram. Means chaila, a cotton, and then kusha grass. And then deer skin. Yogis sit either on deer skin, I told you, or tiger skin, because they have chemical effects, repelling snakes and reptiles. Right? So this is how you should practice Ashtanga Yoga. This is how you begin, This is how you begin practicing Ashtanga Yoga. And then an internal, these are all external things. This is how you prepare for it. Then what is the internal thing? Yogi should sit on it very firmly. Practice yoga for what purpose? To purify the heart. By controlling his mind, senses and activities, fixing the mind on one point. Not just for some asana or some material benefit of good body, a toned body, an increased lifespan, or mystic yoga. Sometimes even for mystic powers, people practice this Ashtanga Yoga. Krishna is emphasizing the goal very clearly. He is saying that this yoga which we practice in big cities is simply a show. Because I don't think they have this purify the heart or controlling the mind and the senses. Sab bhag jayenge, koi aayega hi nahi. Right? And what is the scriptural quote Prabhupada is giving here? Previous verse we had a quote by an acharya. Here there is a scriptural quote. Which scripture is Prabhupada quoting? Brihad Naradiya Puran. There are 18 Puranas. 6 for mode of goodness, 6 for mode of passion, 6 for mode of ignorance. That makes it 18. Na? So in mode of goodness it's this Brihad Naradiya. Brihan, not Brihad. It's Brihad Bhagavatam. It's Brihan. Prabhupada quotes a very beautiful shloka saying that by the name of Hari. Why is he saying this? Because he knows that in Kali Yuga it's only going to become a show. This whole aspect of finding a deer skin, trying kusha grass, sitting on it, going to a secluded place is so difficult. Easier is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So now it's 12:40. I don't know what Premi said. There was this person who was reading in some random Bhagavad Gita and he came across this part. For him, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga were little. Then he came to this chapter of Dhyan. He came to the 6th chapter of Dhyan Yoga, and then he started reading. So it's very interesting, So stare at the tip of your nose. If you sit in a particular, we'll be coming that, the body, neck and head. 13th and 14th verse it is. Where the body, neck and the belly are all in the straight line. He said, oh, it's very. He thought kusha grass. Kusha grass kya hota hai? He was a westerner. He didn't know what is kusha grass. So he went to the dictionary, started searching kusha grass. He found some places where he'll find kusha grass. So he went and he started practicing this dhyan yoga. And then he found something else and then he went away. Yoga to nikal hi gaya. And plus he stopped the Bhagavad Gita at the 6th chapter. So here, when I remember when I was reading this chapter for the first time, I was wondering why Prabhupada is diverting again and again. Again and again he is speaking about Bhakti Yoga. Then when I got to know about this person who was eternally diverted, and I realized, good, he is mentioning this in purpose ki aage kuch aa raha hai. At the end of this chapter, Arjun is going to reject this Ashtanga Yoga and Krishna is going to give him something much more superior, much more better. So hang on. Just hang on.